Hello. Welcome to another broadcast, I suppose, by Brandon Weston. This is an educational short to talk about sickle cell disease and what it is about. So the question is, what is sickle cell disease? It's probably easier to explain first what a red blood cell is. A red blood cell is the cell in the body that's responsible for carrying oxygenated blood from the lungs to the body and bringing that carbon dioxide back from the tissues of the body to the lungs. So this is our little red blood cell. You can see it's kind of like a little donut in a way, but filled in the middle, if you can get the idea. And if we take our magnifying glass right here, we can zoom in on inside of the red blood cell and we can see what hemoglobin is. So hemoglobin is actually the component, the protein component in the red blood cell that attaches or grabs onto the oxygenated molecules. So with that being said, we'll move these out of the way and we'll start back with what is sickle cell disease? So sickle cell disease is a genetic condition that alters the shape of hemoglobin, that protein inside the molecule, the cell. So since it's genetic, that means you can't catch it or give it to anyone else, and it has to come directly from your parents. So hemoglobin are little molecules in the body that, like we said, carry the oxygenated blood from the lungs to the body and return the CO2 back from the tissues to the lungs. All right, so with that being said, we will move on to the next portion, or I guess next question. What is a sickle cell and why is it problematic? So this is our normal little blood cell, like we showed earlier. Normal red blood cells look like little donuts, like we said, and the hemoglobin is the protein inside the red blood cell that is responsible for carrying the oxygen to the body. So, when altered by the sickle cell disease, red blood cells change into crescent or sickle shape bodies like this, more like. So we go from that donut shape more to that crescent, that more of a C-ish kind of shape. So when the molecules change, they begin to clog blood vessels. So this increases the body's need for oxygen in particular locations, and this alone, this lack of oxygen may result in a sickle cell crisis. So that is what a sickle cell is and why it could be potentially problematic. So on to our next question. How does anyone get sickle cell? So, like mentioned before, like we were trying to say, you don't really get it like it is like a common cold. It's genetically based, so it's going to come from mom and dad. So when we say genetically based, our bodies work in a way of taking alleles and forming pairs from our parents. So for whatever your parents contribute, they have their own alleles. So mother contributes this one. Well, let's move a step back. So for sickle cell to continue on, each parent has to be holding a allele or part of the recessive component to pass it on. So that's going to be signified by these black sides. So with that pairing up of the genetics between mom and dad, you have a chance of getting sickle cell anemia, and that poor chance is coming right here, where this potential is 25% chance that they could have sickle cell, and that child unfortunately did. So say they tried again, they could obviously form a pair like this. Mom could contribute this one over here, this one here, this one here, this one here. It just all depends on the connections between the alleles. But like I said, it has to come from both parents, and they both have to be carriers, partially. So, like we said, how does anyone get sickle cell? You don't really get it. You're just kind of born with it. It's just bad chances. And on to our last part of this segment. We're going to talk about factors and how to decrease the likelihood of having a sickle cell crisis. So certain factors can contribute to the sickle cell crisis. So for example, we could exercise a little too much. This creates a shortage of oxygen that can cause red blood cells to begin to sickle. Exercise is okay, but rest is needed between vigorous activities. To add on, we also have stress. So normal everyday stressors, from taking tests, from forgetting to take your homework to school, anything small like that. It's normal everyday stressors can also contribute to the crisis. So you want to be able to find activities in which you can relax and learn how to calm yourself. Just finding those things you like to do so you can fall into flow and really just forget about things for a while. On top of that, we have dehydration. So dehydration is a crucial component to this disease. So when water levels begin to drop below ideal levels in the body, blood vessels grow thicker and stickier, making it a little harder for red blood cells to travel throughout the body. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. Just drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, and keep everything moving like it's supposed to in the body. On top of this, we also have a factor of cold temperatures. So when cold blood vessels constrict, this understandably makes it a little harder for blood cells to freely flow. So keeping the body not, at the ideal temperature, stay bundled up, prepare for colder weather. Just work within the elements. On top of that, we also have infections. So infections can cause cells to sickle as well. So it's suggested to be clean everything, practice good hygiene, eat healthy foods, just kind of keep your environment clean as well. Just practice that kind of cleanliness. And lastly, which is a factor for sickle cell disease and really anyone, smoking. Smoking is generally just bad for everybody in general, so it is suggested that if you do discover you have sickle cell, you just decrease smoking, get away from those environments, stay away from factors that might put you into an environment where it is very smoky, even if you're not yourself smoking them for yourself. So that is sickle cell disease. Everything about it, from what it is, what a sickle cell looks like, why is it problematic, how does anyone get it, and just factors that contribute and how to decrease those. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you learned a little something. Thank you.